Perfect. All right. Good morning. Recap Southern Miss weekend. Overall, obviously, again, not where we want to be. Pretty disappointing with performance. I think first match we didn't play well, but we found a way to win. Like being down 9-14 in the fifth set, we showed a lot. We showed a lot of grit. We were very relentless, and we didn't give up. And so that showed a lot of what we are capable of, right? And then day two, it's a different story. We don't play well. I think overall, just defensive side of the game, we played very well all weekend. I mean, talking to Matt, we set records the first night, NCAA and program. We had 123 digs, which is unbelievable. But on the offensive side, we just didn't take care of business. We had too low of numbers, hitting percentage wise, and then a lot of errors. So really, again, we have to find that consistency. Talking to our leadership council, we're a first half team. We come out hot. We play really well in the first two sets typically. And then from there, it tends to drop off. And so we talked for a little over an hour yesterday and had a good conversation. I think just taking some ownership with things and moving forward with some accountability and what we're going to do to make the change and turn the page. Because this weekend, we do have a tough matchup against Troy.
So of course you guys staved off those points on that first game. In those first two sets on the next day, did you notice kind of a little bit of a drop off, even though, you guys were winning? You noticed a little bit of lethargy or anything like that kind of as they were playing?
Absolutely. So, we talked about it. Just the demeanor, when one starts to go down, it kind of is a trickle effect and it affects everybody on the court. And when you have one person trying to get everybody going, it's tough. And I think Kaylin Demps did a really good job, but, she didn't play to her ability. She spoke on it. But she tried to rally her teammates and get them going, and it just wasn't working. I think, people were extremely hard on themselves because they weren't happy with how they were performing. But, we talked about it. Failure is a part of it. You're going to make mistakes. You've got to learn how to just move on because one can't lead to two, because if you hold on to it, it just builds up. So learning to just flush it and let it go and move on to that next point, because, we really couldn't make anything happen offensively. We were making way too many errors or hitting straight to them. I mean, they were picking up really good balls defensively.
You mentioned the errors and so forth. Obviously, you played 9 long sets over the weekend, but had 60 total errors. Was there anything that Southern Miss was doing, or was it all from your side?
I think, long rallies, of course, just in that regard, they were playing great defense. I mean, we practiced the week prior to prepare for those long rallies and just kind of chaos. We had talked about that drill that we do, and I think it really showed in the performance that we needed that. But from a hitting standpoint, we're way too high error. We have to do a better job of following the scout and continuing to go to what works instead of hitting straight to their best player. I mean, their libero, she averaged over 7 digs per set this weekend. She was unbelievable. She was going after everything, and I commend her on her performance. And then, some of their other players, they were not letting balls hit the floor.
You had mentioned kind of how defensively you have played. You had 100 digs in both nights. Is there any way to use that to kind of transition to kind of help the offense and kind of spark that and make that go forward?
Yeah, I think it's a two-sided kind of, from a hitting standpoint, when you do have those long rallies and you do have your opponent getting those balls up, it becomes frustrating. But it's sticking to, that you have your defense having your back and they're also picking those balls up, and you just have to do your job at putting them away. I know that's just hearing from them, our defense can do a little bit better job of being louder when communicating as to what is open from an offensive standpoint. But even at that, they can, they can tell us the scout verbatim in a timeout before a match and between sets. So they know it's just a matter of executing it when we go out there.
Your next 4 weekends are against West teams. Mm-hmm. You kind of Is there a way to sort of tell everybody, said, okay, now the stretch drive's really underway?
Yeah, so I've kind of been preaching that all year. I said it early on that every point, set, and match matters for us because this season itself has been so unconventional. Anything can happen. And I told him again this weekend against Southern Miss. And then yesterday with Leadership Council, I told him again. I said, at this point, everybody's beaten everybody. South Al ended up sweeping Texas State this weekend. Texas State swept Troy. Troy swept South Al. And so right now we're in a position that it could go one of two ways is what I told him. If we make the change, just own what we've been doing and have some sense of accountability, it can be great for us. We can go win out and we can be successful. If we don't make the change, my biggest fear is that we continue to do what we do, and our weekends against Southern Miss is it's going to come down to us getting into the tournament. And so these next 4 weeks are extremely important for us. Anything can happen at this point.
The first team, you Troy, you said a difficult team, someone not necessarily good results last year. What does this Troy team kind of look like when you were reviewing them, and kind of what stands out that could probably be challenging to you guys?
So they have two really big offensive players. They're two go-tos. One, an outside, the other one, she plays outside and opposite. But they're back, they're older, they're vets, they're very good. And I think the difference in their team from last year to this season is they don't have as heavy as middles in their offense as they did in the past. Those are really their two go-tos. They have one other girl that she also plays on the pin. So a little bit different in that sense, to where I'm hoping that we can scheme some things out defensively. And just if we do our job offensively, then we put ourselves in a position to take them out offensively and be able to score a little bit easier. But it goes back to just being able to follow that scout and do our job. But it's going to be a tough 2 matches. I mean, Troy is a good team, and I know that they're going to come ready to battle because they want to go win.